Okay, caller.
Well, the prelude to the story was uh, Dr. Huggins, Charlie, we call him Charlie Huggins, won the Nobel Prize in Medicine at one time. I think this was before he won it that he got it. And he, Billings at that time was a lot of experimental surgery.
Yeah.
Some of which was pretty horrible and pretty radical. But at that time, that was,
What you had to do.
well, not only that, but that was when people were looking for, like this virus thing, they're looking for a cure. Indeed, mostly was cancer. So he discovered along in his lab with all these poor residents who didn't get a thing from him, what was thought to be a treatment for cancer. Well, anyway, we'll make a long story short. He lived on campus, near campus, with his wife. He was an SOB. He's the one who asked me what medical school I went to.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling him how to do something.
Wasn't it a catheter or something?
Oh, I'm so mouthy. But he wasn't a pleasant guy. His surgery was not fine. It was, and well, anyway, to make a long story short, he lived on the campus, and he needed something done, and your father always was able to manufacture something that fit his need. And the last one I remember is one of the bigger things I remember is that he needed decorative bars on his windows, outside windows, and that red card. Your father did that for him.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was after that job, he gave your father the horse, and he gave it to his mother, and she used it as a doorstop. And when I came into the picture, I saw this beautiful bronze thing with all paint spots on it. And anyway, the story was, as your father told it to me, that this horse was given to Charlie from some Italian surgeon,
Mm-hmm.
so somebody in Italy, for something, I don't know why the gift was, but he got it from this Italian medical person, and then he had it, and then he gave it to your father. That's all I know about it.
Yes.
And at one time, and it has the name of the bronze factory on it who
Yes.
formed it.
Yes.
And I took it to the Art Institute. Do you know that story?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I would like you to remind me of the significance of this scaled model that is supposedly somewhere in France.
Well, this is when I brought it to the Art Institute. They were really very interested in it, and they told me that it was one of two horses somewhere in France that guarded a gate, like one of those big things like this.
Yes.
And he said, this one, the one that you don't have, has a horse in a more upright position. This is not as,
Yes.
And he said, this could be the search of your lifetime to find the pair, the other horse. And I said, yeah, 19 pounds I carried on me out.
Oh,
This
wow.
thing in a shopping bag. They had the free day for people to bring in their artifacts.
Kind of like Antiques
antique.
Roadshow.
Yeah, correct.
Yes. But that was when? Probably after Dad died?
Oh, no, I think it was before.
Okay.
Well, maybe it was after, I don't recall.
Either way,
it doesn't make any
you
difference
had some
to the story.
historical relevance of
Yeah.
this gift.
Yeah, and so I looked it up, And I think you can find it on the internet also.
Okay.
It's the Horses of Marley, Marley.
Okay. Just like Bob Marley.
Correct.
Yaman.
Hmm?
Yaman. Pass the spliff.
Well, you know those horses must have been 12 feet tall in bronze or something. The real
Yes.
ones or stone or whatever.
Yes.
However, the story doesn't end. Several years later, I'm listening to a soap opera, As the World Turns, or one of those things when I was hooked on those. And the backdrop was a fireplace with both horses.
No.
Yes. It was like, oh my God, that's the other horse. They were plaster or something. But
Sure,
there were two
sure.
horses,
Reproductions.
just one like this and one that was up like
Wow.
this.
Well, today I will have to get on the internet, the
Yeah.
Horses of Marley,
Yeah, the Horses of Marley.
and then we will have something to read about
Yeah. Yeah.
for historical significance.
Absolutely.
And then when we have our little wine at the end of the day, we will have to have a drink for
To Charlie.
Charlie Huggins and the Horses of Marley.
Yeah, well, Charlie adored your father. I mean, he couldn't say enough good about him, and he wrote me the most beautiful condolence letter
Yeah,
after your father died, and I put it away and I can't find it. I know it's here because
sure.
I would never destroy anything like that,
Right.
and it really is a beautiful letter that he was, So Charlie Huggins was an SOB in the operating room, and those poor residents, like they say, Charlie gets all the prizes and we get all the crap. He says he's got watches up to his elbow and he wouldn't share one.
That's too bad.
Well, that's who he was. He lived to be almost 100. Every day he would walk the lake with his wife. They lived right there.
Yeah, Hyde Park.
He walked and he was a very bright, quick man.
Uh-huh.
And nice looking, short, kind of not too fat. And big blue eyes that just penetrated you over the mask.
Ominous.
Just his piercing eyes.
Interesting. Thank you for refreshing my memory.
Yeah, well,
Because-
that's all I remember about him, except all those times in the OR. But the horse is that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
He got it from some Italian, somebody, and and when your father did some work for him, he just gave him the horse, so it didn't mean much to him.
Sure.
And then his mother used it as a doorstop.
Yeah.
With all this paint splattered on it.
Isn't it remarkable that you can recall such facts at 96?
Well,
It
don't
is
know what I did yesterday, though.
Yeah, but still, that is a testimony of how you can, almost like a library, your brain can
You're right.
get the book out,
Yes, you're
open
right.
the page, and then recite a story
Oh, yes.
almost
Oh, yeah.
the same way I heard it 20 years ago.
Oh, right. Or I've
That's
told,
amazing,
well,
you
I
know?
mean, it's just a gift of the stroke of luck. and
But no,
DNA.
I think if you have adequate hydration, your mind will not fizzle out.
Well, I think that's only one part of it, John. A lot of it is keeping like I talk about remodeling your brain. A lot of it is stimulating my brain with reading, with research, with discovery, with wanting to know the answers
Yes.
and not take anything by value. I've got to know the sources, and sometimes it's hard for me to. So I go step by step, and then I understand it. I think the brain has to be worked. It has to be modeled, and my curiosity and my reading, I've read all of my life since I was that big, and now I just read everything. I read novels, I read short stories, I read current things. I got a couple of magazines that come every so often, and it's just keeping yourself stimulated.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Just like Mr. Ron doing trig
yeah,
problems
yeah,
at
90 or
90
whatever.
years
Yeah.
old. Yeah.
I was amazed at the time, but what I do is get up in the morning at 5 o'clock. I get the coffee. I sit there and uh, I go on the pad now. It
Yeah.
used to be the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Go from page, read everything in the page, and when I start a book, I read from the time I open the hardcover or softcover. I read everything. I read when it was publishing. I just read from the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
And I do think when I compare myself with, well, just say Anime, she's the only 90-year-old one, and she's very bright, and she's just as bright as I am, but she is not as curious as I am.
Mm-hmm.
She reads a lot, but she reads, I shouldn't say, she reads more simple things, like novels that have a lot of conversation. She
Mhm.
doesn't do well with block reading.
Mm-hmm.
And she's as sharp as a tack in many ways, but she has been stripped of a lot of independent. My Frank, he was a domineering man who wouldn't let her drive, who wouldn't let her do this.